We'll get started. Good evening and welcome to tonight's live virtual program presented by the Howell Carnegie District Library and the League of Women Voters of Livingston County. I'm Brandy Tambasco, Adult Services Librarian here at the library. Thank you for joining us this evening. I have a few housekeeping items to share before we get started. Tonight's program is scheduled to run until 8 p.m. It will begin with presentation by our speakers, followed by time for audience questions. To reduce distraction during our speaker's presentation, all attendees will be muted. You may share any questions for the presenters in the chat during that time, and they will be addressed after the presentation in the Q&A session. During that Q&A session, you'll be able to unmute yourself to ask a question. You'll also be able to turn on your video. We'll address as many audience questions as we can before the program ends. Throughout the program, though, please report any technical issues you may have in the chat. Subtitles have been enabled for this program. If you want to turn those off, click the small up arrow next to the live transcript button down in your bottom menu bar of Zoom and select Hide Subtitles. This program is being recorded, and the recording will be available on the library's YouTube channel and the League of Women Voters of Livingston County YouTube channel soon after the live virtual program. If you do not want your video in the recording, make sure your video stays off, that there is a red slash through the camera icon in the bottom left corner of your Zoom window. Without further ado, I will turn things over to Ellen Lafferty, the chairperson of our League of Women Voters of Livingston County.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us tonight. My name is Ellen Lafferty, as she stated, as I'm the chair of the League of Women Voters of Livingston County, and I'm joined this evening by our chair-elect, Shirley Jackson. We are here to provide you and share some history of our league. Sorry, Shirley. And the basics of the organization, and also what our own league has been up to and how perhaps you might want to become involved. And perhaps along the way, you might be inclined to join us. Thank you again for joining us. And as always, we want to thank Brandy and also the entire staff at the Howell Carnegie Library for hosting this event tonight. During this presentation, you're going to see multiple links to emails and websites in the presentation, but please do not worry about writing them down. We'll follow up with an email that's sent out by the Howell staff with the survey that will list all of those emails, web links, and so forth. So please just sit back and enjoy. So let me get to share the screen right now and get us started. All right, here we go. Just a little bit of background of our league. Back in 2018 in January, a group of committed men and women came together to bring the League of Women Voters back to Livingston County. All newly formed leagues go through a three-step process, beginning as what's called a geographical unit. Then they move on to become a state unit, and then the final step will be to become a completely independent league, which we hope to become in the not so distant future. This three-step process provides all new leagues with the much needed guidance and mentorship each step of the way. We were organized as the Brighton Howell Geographical Unit under the mentorship of the Ann Arbor Area League. Fast forward to September of 2021, we applied and were approved to go on to the next step as what's called a state unit. And it also used to be called a member at large. And this is now under the guidance of the state league, the League of Women Voters of Michigan. In that process, we updated our name to the League of Women Voters of Livingston County. We felt that some areas of Livingston County were not clearly serviced by the former name of the Brighton Howell area. And by moving forward as a state unit, we hope to better connect with a wider population of voters in the Livingston County area. With that being said, we want to also thank the Washtenaw County League, formerly the Ann Arbor area, by sharing with us this presentation materials for tonight's program. Excuse me. Just for informational purposes only, there are more than 30 very active leagues in the state of Michigan and more than 700 leagues nationwide. So let's move on to Shirley.
Thank you. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization that engages in education and advocacy of voters. Many people think that we're just about voter registration and that's it. But while voting rights is certainly a core mission, this is not our only activity. Our state and national organizations take positions on public policies as well as give testimony to the government when appropriate. A testimony example was given at the Michigan state level relating to redistricting and the Michigan Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission. The State League is currently monitoring multiple voting bills moving through the legislature. And to learn more about the state's position on multiple bills, go to the League of Women Voters Michigan website, which we will be giving you the exact logo or the address for later on. Another core part of our League's mission is to encourage informed and active participation in government. And examples of this work are the candidate forums prior to the primary and general elections, along with online voter guide, Vote 411. We work to understand major public policy issues and then influence public policy through education and advocacy. Back to you, Ellen.
Just a little bit of background to the League. The League was officially founded in 1920, shortly before the 19th Amendment was ratified, granting women the right to vote. Suffragists wanted to form the organization to assist the 20 million women in carrying out their new responsibilities as voters. At the time, however, due to some laws in many states, many poor and non-white men and women were unable to exercise their vote. Today, the League works to fight for voting rights and access for all voters.
So let me just give everybody a brief voting history over the last 320 plus years. I promise it'll be not all that long. Starting in 1789, only land-owning white male citizens were allowed to vote. Gradually, states expanded this to non-land-owning white male citizens. In 1870, after the Civil War, Black men were given the right to vote, though many of them had their voting rights suppressed by Jim Crow laws. Now, jump 50 years to 1920, when women were granted the right to vote through the passage of the 19th Amendment, though many poor non-white women still had no access to voting due to discriminatory laws still in place. In 1924, most Native Americans were granted the right to vote when the Indian Citizenship Act was passed. And that act, what it did is it gave all Native Americans born in this country citizenship. And in a lot of states, citizenship was the right to vote went along with that citizenship, but that's not true in all states. And so that's why some states still barred Native Americans from voting. In 1943, Chinese immigrants were granted the right to citizenship, thus opening up access to voting. And in 1961, Washington, D.C. residents were finally granted the right to vote for a U.S. president. In all these instances, laws and discriminatory practices continued to be in place in many states, barring the vote for most poor and non-white citizens. It wasn't until the passage of the Voting Rights Act of 1965, when the Supreme Court outlawed poll taxes, language barriers, and the tax and wealth requirements, finally giving poor and non-white citizens full access to vote. In 1971, the voting age was changed to 18, opening up access to a new group of voters. And in 1986, citizens living abroad were granted the right to vote absentee. Today, the fight continues as more and more states try to put barriers in place to suppress voters.
So we're going to jump forward a little bit. And why do folks join the League of Women Voters today? Well, as Shirley mentioned, the League is nonpartisan, meaning we do not support individual candidates or political parties. Our members also have many opportunities to learn and educate themselves about our government, which we pass on to the Livingston County public. As a new member, you will most likely meet and interact with like-minded, passionate people and have opportunities to take action on public policy issues. You'll be a part of a national organization that puts access to voting front and center. That's never more important than it is today. We have an extensive study and consensus process that ensures our members are fully informed on issues before we take a stand. These issues might include, and you can read them on the state and national websites, issues on the environment, healthcare, voting rights, redistricting. It's all issues that we've done in-depth studies on before we take a position on them. We also host public forums which are well known for being fair, transparent, and civil. For example, we recently covered the City Council candidate forums of the Howell and Brighton area in preparation for the November general election.
Membership may aspire you to a leadership position, or you may prefer to follow the lead of experienced members. Either way, it's fine. You will have many opportunities to nurture your civic curiosity and take advantage of the opportunities for action. And this may include assisting in any of the following league activities: developing programs for the public, social media and other communications to current and potential members, participating in the Observer Corps, registering voters at local high schools and colleges, or developing our candidate forms. However, we're grateful to those who support us simply by becoming a member or attending our programs of interest to you. Please remember that there's 3 levels of the league: local, state, and national. And when you become a member, you are part of all 3 levels of the league organization. One of the core missions of the league is advocacy. This is where members of the league participate in studies and help inform people about public policy issues, which the league has taken on a position on. It's important to note that the local league does not take action without a state or national position to back it up. National, state, and local issues we are currently advocating on include, but are not limited to, election security, redistricting, voting rights, and money in politics. An example of our local league participating in advocacy was in the development of the state league's position on the lame duck legislative sessions in Michigan that were adopted in 2021. Local representatives to the advocacy group, I happen to be one of them, participated in lengthy discussions to develop a consensus, which were then submitted, voted upon, and adopted at the state convention. There a lot of input went into that, and I can personally attest to it.
And another thing that our league is hoping to get more active in is what's called the Observer Corps. This is one of the many roles that the league takes on. And the Observer Corps, as you can see, it's really important to the transparency and accountability in our local government. League members who agree to observe and report back on the meetings of local government entities provide our league an avenue to become informed on issues that matter to our community. By learning how public organizations function and what important issues are, the feedback from these observers help in the formation of questions for our voter guide and our candidate forums, as well as guiding us on what public presentations would be educational for all. We're always seeking members to assist in the observing a local government entity, such as a local school board, city councils, or the county board of commissioners. Since most of these meetings are attended virtually, it makes it all the more easier for joining the Observer Corps. As you can see, we have these email links within these pages, but again, don't worry about them. We'll share them at the end.
Members involved in committees within our league guide the topics for the program committee's public presentations in order to inform Livingston County residents on important topics that are relevant today. This committee works on our programs for the public with the support of our community partnerships, such as all of our local libraries here in Livingston County, WHMI, and the Livingston Post to help us spread the word.
And as you can see from that list, that's just a short, brief list of some of the public presentations that we've offered over the last couple of years. Again, that's just a short list of the numerous presentations that we've had. We have an incredibly strong communications committee that works with us to get the word out. They handle all correspondence within our membership, along with sharing our upcoming events to the general community. They handle this tremendous volume of information through our website, emails, newsletters, Facebook, our YouTube channel, and with our press releases. Please be sure to check out our Facebook and webpage if you haven't done so already. In addition, you can go to our website and click on ask to receive our emails, our newsletters, and they'll come to you. We're trying to have those every single month, at the end of every month, and that gives you an idea what we've been working on and what's happening next with the league.
Our membership committee works to attract new members, engage current members in satisfying volunteer tasks within advocacy, voter services, communications, or programs. And the committee plans long-range goals and strategies for membership with a focus on our DEI mission to expand our diversity and inclusivity. They handle orientation sessions as well as programs and events for members only.
And here is what people really think is the meat of the League of Women Voters, and that is our voter services. And this is where multiple members handle all actions related to voter registration and election education. These may include and are not limited to candidate forums for the August primary and the November general election. Our vote41.org is published just about the time when your absentee ballots come out. And also the State League publishes a print edition that we distribute to the local libraries for the every 4 years. It's a nice thick booklet that shows everybody's response to Vote 411. Our Your Elected Officials brochure is now available online on our webpage. And what it is it's all the contact information to all elected officials, from the president all the way down to your elected local officials. This can be accessed and looked at anytime on our website. We've done the voter registrations. We've hit this hard and heavy back in 2018-19, and of course 2020 sure put the brakes on this. But we're still assisting those local high school with virtual presentations and trying to support them in registering new young voters. Along with Cleary University, we've assisted them as well. Voter education includes, for example, the voter registration process is now online. Also, there's been some recent changes to absentee ballots because of what the voters supported back in 2018. So there's so much education going on there. Clerk engagement, we encourage all members of the public to work to become a poll watcher or a challenger, to host public presentations with our local and county clerks on election security and also on the voting process. Finally, we're looking at, this is our goal for 2022, is senior citizen support. There's so many seniors that have moved to assisted living or nursing home facilities that want to make sure their vote counts and they are still able to vote. We want to reach out to those facilities in Livingston County and hopefully get into a few of them to help those seniors update their voter registration information to make sure their voice is heard.
In response to our DEI mission to become a diverse, equitable, and inclusive organization, we've created a DEI steering committee to help advise and guide our local League of Women Voters of Livingston County in our decision-making, voter education, and advocacy. And we hope that as an organization, we offer and nurture a diverse, equitable, and inclusive environment that's welcoming to all who are drawn to our mission and wish to make a positive impact. Today, we invite all people, regardless of gender, gender identity, ethnicity, or race, to join us as we commit to building a stronger, more inclusive democracy.
And if you're interested, how can you become involved in the League of Women Voters? As I've mentioned before, please take an opportunity to look at our fantastic new website that our webmaster has done a terrific job putting together. It's chock full of information about how to join us or just to find out what's going on. You can also on that website sign up for our newsletters. And also if you follow us on Facebook, that way you can kind of narrow down what interests you. Our Facebook is very current. It's, I would say, 2 to 3 posts per week at least on what's going on state, nationally, and locally. And finally, for more information or help or questions, contact me. And the email is listed right there. So please reach out to us. And if you'd like to get involved in this great organization, this 100-year-old organization, please consider doing so. And questions. I'm going to stop the share right now. And here we go. And open it up to anybody who has any questions. I don't know if any have been asked in the chat room. We were just so focused on the presentation. But we have a couple members in the audience right now that also are on our committees that might be willing to help answer any of the questions you might have.
There have not been any questions submitted to the chat yet, Ellen and Shirley, but everybody who's in attendance can now unmute yourselves. You can also start your video if you're comfortable with having your video in the recording, and you can ask your questions that way too.
We did such a good job, Shirley. All right, I'm not hearing any questions at all. We kind of thought this would be a short and sweet presentation, explaining the league both nationally, locally, and in your neighborhood. So we do consist of your neighbors. We're folks that live right here in the county. And please, if you don't join in, you don't have to. But please follow us where there's so much information coming from our league to help you understand more what's going on at the government level, state, or national. Thank you for joining us. And as always, thank you, Brandy, and the Howell District Library for your support.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're quite welcome. I do have a question. What sort of time commitment should somebody be prepared to give to the league when they decide to become involved?
Very good question. Depending on what role you have, some time commitment might be on a short-term basis. For example, Vote 411 is only prepared for the elections in August primary and the November general election. Now, granted, it's quite a bit of data entry on that part, but it's only during that time of year. Our newsletter editor, I see, is here tonight, and she pulls together our newsletter at the end of every month. Plus, she attends our board meetings. And so it might be like 4 to 5 hours a month, and it might be as little as just a couple of hours. Obviously, my role is a little bit more top heavy on the time put in, but for some members, it's a very brief part, like maybe a couple hours a month. And it's all work. When they come back from doing that work, they really enjoy participating in that. Hopefully they do.
One thing I'd like to add is that when you become involved on a committee, then you get much more knowledgeable about not only your own committee, but a lot of things that the league is involved with. And it's just like I work on the Vote 411 committee, and I'm doing it, co-chairing it with Jennifer Cote, and we have a great time doing it. But it is, there is an appreciable, I'm not gonna, try and kid you and say that it's just, super quick and easy. There is an appreciable amount of work involved, but it's work that you don't mind doing, and you learn a lot while you're doing it. And plus, it's fun to interact with other members.
And we're very fortunate to have a good relationship, not only with our local libraries and community members, but also with our government officials. And so when we reach out and say, hey, we'd like to host a forum on this or that, it's nice to have those relationships built, which take time. And we've spent 4 years building up those relationships. So we feel we're in a really good position. Janice, you have a question?
Yeah, I was just wondering about being a poll watcher, and does the league sign members up for that, or how does that work? And what's the difference between a poll watcher and a challenger and that type of thing?
Anyone can be a poll watcher. And you can find information on the Livingston County election website on what a poll watcher is. A poll challenger has to come from, let's say, the Republican or Democratic Party, and they are credentialed. They have to carry a badge in order to be in the room. There's very strict limitations about what they can and cannot do. Poll watchers have to actually stand in a set squared off area in that polling area, whereas poll challengers have a little bit more liberty to walk around the room. And what they're doing is both camps are making sure that there's nothing untoward going on. The county has a wonderful website under elections as far as explaining what a poll worker is, a watcher, a poll watcher, and a challenger. And I wanted to give them a shameless plug. They have a great information about our election process and the security of our elections. So I encourage everybody to look there. But to go back, it's very common action in our league that many of our members are poll workers. And so they walk the walk. And until you walk through that the election process, it's all, armchair quarterbacking. You really don't understand what's going on. So the league watched, I know I'm digressing here. The league we had poll watchers, and we also had poll workers. And we also attended and watched the Board of Canvassers last year, or I'm sorry, in 2020. And that was eye-opening. Now, granted, it's a week-long process, but when they confirm every single vote, and they're just a precise group of workers that want to make sure those election results are accurate. And so that's also something that's worth watching as well. I hope I answered your question.
Yes, thank you.
Good one. Anyone else? Good. Well, thank you everyone for joining tonight. I'm going to turn it back to Brandy. Thanks again. We're going to have this up on our YouTube channel and webpage, and hope you continue to watch.
Thank you,
Yes.
everyone.
Thank you, Ellen. Thank you, Shirley. We really appreciate you sharing your knowledge and expertise with us this evening, telling us more about the league and how everybody can be involved. The library is thankful for our continued partnership with the League of Women Voters of Livingston County to spread this and other valuable information with our community. Visit their website, www.lwvlivingstonco.org, to learn more about the organization and how you can become involved. And thank you all for attending tonight's program. We hope you enjoyed it. Please take a few minutes to tell us what you thought about the program in the survey that's being shared just this moment in the chat. Everyone who registered today will soon receive an email including links to additional resources that Ellen and Shirley mentioned during the presentation, as well as that survey link to give your anonymous feedback about tonight's program. We will also share the link to the recording of tonight's program when it is available on the library's YouTube channel. Visit our website, www.howelllibrary.org, to discover more upcoming events from the Howell Carnegie District Library. Thank you and good night.
Thank you.